Okay, I've got the top of the hour, everybody. Welcome to our second virtual Thursday of 2017. Today we're going to spend time focusing on the new maintenance module. And before we get started, I'd just like to give a shout out to a few people that I recognize here on our list of attendees. Uh, Doug Ayers, I know I've worked with you before, Doug, so welcome to today's session. I also see my mentor, Jay Gunsals, who used to be our director of training at emergency reporting. He is now retired, living the good life and traveling the world. But it's always great to have him here, and I know his feedback will be much appreciated after today's session. Nancy Shane, I know I've worked with you recently, and I sent you an email earlier about that report we need to work on. I'm going to need my memory jogged a little bit on that one since I misplaced my notes. Roger Parker, who's one of our regional trainers, he's here as well, joining us. And over the pond in Germany, we've got Tillman Holbe. He is with us today. He's out in Berlin, and he was with the Rhineland Falls Fire Department, part of an army garrison there. And he's joining us. He's joining us from overseas in Germany. So it's good to have you, Tillman, always. All right, well, with that, I think people are starting to pile in here too. This may break a record for the number of attendees for Virtual Thursday. We had just over 60 people register, and so we've got about 36 going in right now. And also, before we get started, I need to mention that my wingman today is Mark Wolf. He is our regional and DoD trainer, as am I. He's based out of Ohio. I'm coming to you from sunny Tucson, Arizona today. So without further ado, let's get started. If at any point you guys can't hear me or see my screen, just send a message in either the chat or the question box, and we'll get that addressed. But I'm assuming that there's no technical difficulties. If everyone's able to hear and see my screen, I think we'll be good to go. So here's our objectives for today. We're going to navigate the equipment grid. I'm going to introduce you to the new equipment grid, the new apparatus grid, how to add an equipment category, how to add an equipment subcategory, how to perform maintenance actions such as requesting maintenance, requesting cleaning, requesting testing, accessing the both equipment and apparatus maintenance history, archiving equipment, and deleting equipment. And some of that will also apply to apparatus, not the deletion or archiving per se, but the grids for both the apparatus and equipment are very similar in functionality. So we'll be hitting both of those. All right, let's get this thing started. One plug I'd like to make really quickly, our our Austin Regional Training Conference is sold out. We have hit the max number for that conference that's going to take place at the end of February. However, we have another great venue for our May Regional Training Conference in San Diego. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this link and share it with all of you via the chat window here. And if you're interested in attending, just click on that and all of the details are there. We would love to see you there. We'd like to make this another record-breaking event. We are on a roll for 2017 with emergency reporting. We're growing rapidly, and we're also just super busy. All divisions from support to training. Our development team is just super busy. So, all right. So once we are in the maintenance module or in our system from the welcome page, of course, we're going to click on the maintenance module. And as you've all probably noticed, we did switch over to where it defaults to the new maintenance module. And so as this loads, you have the ability to return to the older version. And as of now, there will be a reason that we go here, and I'll show you that momentarily for accessing this, because one of the settings buttons does not yet appear on the horizontal button bar on the main page for the new maintenance module. But as we work our way across left to right, of course, the home button, that's ubiquitous on all of our pages. This will toggle you over to the equipment grid. And we were just at the apparatus grid. Now this assigned PPE, many of you are probably looking at this and going, what in the world is that? Well, this assign PPE button appears when you have the premier version of Safety Analytics. And it allows you to, and this will be for another Virtual Thursday session, but essentially allows you to really manage your PPE in a way that just makes life easier for whoever's in charge of tracking all of your turnouts, cleaning and maintaining your turnouts, and it also drives our safety analytics gauge in the analytics module for the safety analytics element of analytics, because we have response analytics as well. And then the reports button, of course, takes you directly to the reports relevant to the maintenance module. All right, so when you are navigating the new equipment grid, it looks a lot different than the old maintenance module. We'll get to this momentarily on adding new equipment, but as you look at the header row here, it allows you to search by equipment ID, serial number, ownership, maintenance, maintenance type, and I think this is going to be changing to action, because you can, again, these are the ones that are available to you based on any pending maintenance for the equipment. So that's not the complete list. As other items get added, say I add a cleaning or an NFP annual test, that will appear in this dropdown. So I know that on all of my equipment that has pending maintenance, currently it's just these 4 types that are pending. Work assignment, so who or what the pending maintenance is assigned to, and it can be assigned to a person within the organization, or it can be assigned externally to a vendor. The schedule date, the drop down here on the schedule date will show you these hard-coded selections that you can see here that go from today to not scheduled, and then if any of the dates that are added into the actual maintenance request, that will be part of this drop down as well. So I can see that I have at least 1 pending maintenance request on each of these 4 dates. And I'm zoomed in here, so the request and actions kind of get a little askew. I made the screen bigger for everybody, but normally the view, when I expand this will allow you to see the request. Let me see if it, yeah, it kept, and then actions that can be taken, and I'll get to this here in just a moment. Okay, any questions so far? Just remember that you can search by typing in a few words here. So if I'm looking for, and I want to make sure I'm looking for the right thing. Okay, so that's EXCO. So if I look for something that has EX in it, it will give me a pick list of any piece of equipment with its ID that includes the character string EX. So I have 4, and they're all in the extinguisher category. And the grid also auto filters based on your selection here. So if I just typed E, anything that had an E in it, the grid refilters and displays those. So 1 or 2 characters gives you a whole lot. When you start limiting down to just 1, 2, or 3, it gets more granular and a much more refined results. And that works the same through the other grids that are not drop-down grids. Drop-down grids are hard-coded and give you just pick lists here, as opposed to being able to type that in. Okay, so as questions start coming in, what I'm going to do is Mark is going to answer them via the chat, and then as I see different ones pop up, I'll verbalize them as well, so everybody can kind of join in, and I may even demonstrate some of those. So are we going to be able to search an item by description? And when you say description, Steve, do you mean the description of that particular item? In other words, it's type, like if it's a dry chem extinguisher, that kind of search capability? Yes, that's coming. The product owner is aware of this, that there are some headers here that we'd like to add, and he's even discussed the ability for the user to be able to configure which columns or which fields at the header row appear for you. So maybe you're not so worried about the serial number, but you'd rather have the description. It will allow you to replace that. That's in the works. That's being discussed right now. As of now, though, in the first release of this new module, it's just these searchable fields. Great question. Okay, as we navigate the equipment grid, we've got this. So I need to explain a couple things here. These are your categories. So with everything collapsed, your tier 1, I'm going to call it the tier 1, is your category. Now these first ones with this icon next to them with the magnifying glass and shield is for safety analytics. And that's, again, if you have the full safety analytics module, these hard-coded categories will appear here because these categories drive the PPE and the equipment gauges. If you don't have these, don't worry about it. The module's still fully functional. It just doesn't drive a particular gauge in our analytics module. So Scott's asking, how do I see others' questions? I think when you type a question, you can either send it privately or send to all. So if you ask, at least on my panel, it allows me to do that. It might be different on yours. Um, let me see if there's any kind of setting that would allow me to change that. I thought it defaults to show everybody's question. If it doesn't, well, I'll just repeat them as we go. Repeat them as we go and address them. And then Mark can chime in too and interrupt me if he needs to. Okay, so these are the categories at the first tier. The first batch that if you have safety analytics will appear at the top. These below are the categories that you create. And so here under computers, for example, I've got a category. When I click the expand button, it shows me the subcategories. This is a two-tiered module. So after this, my next tier, and I guess you would consider it three tiers, but the third tier is the actual piece of equipment. So how that looks is right here. I'm going to go to hose. Actually, let's go to portable equipment, one that's not in safety analytics for you. So under radios, I have mobiles and I have portables. And in my mobiles, I have these 7 pieces of equipment. The serial number, they're not currently assigned to any apparatus, person, or station. And you can also see here that I have this one that has a pending maintenance item, a minor repair, assigned to Anne, and the date is in red because it's past due. And I'll show you a couple other ways this particular part of the system appears. The SCBA category up here shows me that I have 308 pieces of equipment within the SCBA category. And I have all of these categories here, so 7 categories with the number of pieces within each subcategory, the second tier. And then I can go into my bottles and see that the red triangle, the red warning triangle, indicates that I have 1 or more pieces of equipment within that subcategory. And also it encompasses the entire category, so that also has a red triangle to let me know that it's out of service. So this particular piece of equipment, HP001, is out of service. And typically when things are out of service, there's usually a pending maintenance item associated with it. This one currently doesn't have one, but if it did, it also would show red. Let me see if our nozzles have that. Okay, so this is an even better example. So nozzles, category, 1 3/4 smooth bore, solid bore. And I could go back to my Fire Academy days. It's a solid stream comes from a smooth bore is what was drilled into me, so that probably should be a smooth bore. And so we've got 1 3/4 12-1 is the ID. It's on BT91. You'll notice that everything is red because that piece of equipment's out of service. This is all red because it's not only not scheduled, it's not assigned. And then these two have black text, but red over here on the date because they're past due. Okay, so does that make sense? All right, pretty easy to navigate. You can expand and collapse the categories and subcategories as you see fit, or start practicing, and I even have to get in the habit of this, is if you know the ID or the ownership, you can filter the grid quickly and to display just the pieces of equipment that for the characters that you type in any of these search fields. All right, before we go into the apparatus grid, I want to talk a little bit about these icons over on the far right. So the first icon with the gear and the little plus with it allows you to add a maintenance request. I'm going to get to that momentarily. This allows you to see the history of any particular piece of equipment. So we'll click into that, and you can see any piece of that particular piece of equipment, which is described at the header here, and its entire maintenance history. You can also add maintenance from this page as well if you'd like, and that functions just like this gear icon. If you have full privileges to the maintenance module, you'll be able to edit that piece of equipment. And we're going to talk more about this because this does appear differently than in the old maintenance module. You've got your categories, subcategories, and we're going to hit all these fields here momentarily and talk about some of the nuances here and some of the benefits that you get out of filling out these fields comprehensively. This little storage box icon on the far right is your archive button. This is new. This allows you to archive any piece of equipment. The nice thing about archiving equipment is that it goes in this little, I call it the little hoarder's box in the corner of the house here. You can click on here and all of your archived equipment is sorted just like the main equipment grid, category, and if there is a subcategory, let's see, yes there is here, okay. If the actual category in the main equipment grid has a subcategory, it will appear with it. And then any piece of equipment that was never categorized will appear in this top category or pseudo category. It says the following equipment needs to be categorized. And the nice thing is you can always unarchive any piece of equipment. If you accidentally archived it or you need to bring it back, we've got the in and out of service, but say you're going to take it off the maintenance list and archive it, and you ever needed to put it back into active status, all you do is click this button here, and it will unarchive it and put it right back into its category on the main equipment grid. Before I forget, and since it's staring right at me, you can expand all, and it will expand all of your categories and subcategories, and then you can collapse all, each with one click each. This here is like in our other grids. This is a check all, so it checks everything in this grid, and it allows you to unarchive it or permanently delete that item. The delete is a hard delete, and it does remove it completely from your system. And that's our bulk operations. That appearance is a little bit different there than it is in the older module. Okay. Functionally here, same thing. What I can do is on all my nozzles, or better still, I like this example better, on my hose. Let's say I do my annual hose testing. Now these have not been all placed into a category, but let's say I just tested all of my 2.5-inch hose. Okay, I can go and check each of these and complete maintenance on each one, but let's just get it all done in one batch. So I check the subcategory. It then checks all of the items within that subcategory. I can edit those pieces of equipment, so this allows me to bulk migrate pieces of equipment from one apparatus or individual or station to another. So, or I can add a maintenance record, and in this case, say I tested all of this hose, I can click Add Maintenance, and I can go in here and put in NFPA Annual Test, Maintenance Title, 2017, Annual Test, completed today, completed by, say, me, everything's still in service, everything passed. Now, because this wasn't farmed out to anybody, I'm not going to really put in labor hours, but I can enter the cost if there's any cost associated with it. And when we get to apparatus, I'll do this again. Any notes, any documentation or images I'd like to load, I can load. I click Complete and Close, and now every one of those pieces of equipment, these hose sections, if I go into its history, will have an NFPA annual test today, and the second piece also. So that's the way you want to, if you're doing hose en masse, this is the way to manage it and to not have to duplicate effort in manually entering each maintenance or actions taken for each piece of equipment. Questions so far? Okay, so far so good. All right, I'm going to peek over quickly to the apparatus grid. The functionality is identical, except there's no subcategories here. Not yet. I won't, okay, I'll let it slip. We're working on the ability to have compartments within an apparatus for apparatus checks. And so that will eventually become part of this module. But right now, you have your list of engines. Again, I can search. If I'm looking for engine 1, I can type in E, or like I'm looking for engine 96, I can type in 96 and it will take me to it. Apparatus ID, that's your call sign on the radio. Vehicle number is your shop number, or and in the actual piece of the apparatus, it's your maintenance tracking number. Station it's assigned to. Again, any kind of maintenance request. And again, that's not our comprehensive list. It's just in this grid, these are pending maintenance items that are available to you to filter. Who it's assigned to. Same thing on the scheduled date. Today, tomorrow, overdue, not scheduled. And I can see that of everything that is potentially any maintenance request here, and my old terminology is maintenance request, but I want you to start thinking too, like actions, because it could be cleaning and it could be a testing. So any action that's scheduled is not had an assigned date to it, because I don't have any dates below the not scheduled, unlike in the equipment grid. And of course, the requests and actions are just the same as they were for equipment. The categories are hard-coded, and they're based on the ENFRS type classification of apparatus. So 11 dashes, engines 12, 16, 71, and 92, and there's others, of course. And as you add equipment with a new ENFRS categorization, it will appear on this grid as well. Set of pieces of equipment, you've got numbers of apparatus in each of the categories. So I know that in one of my engines, just looking at this, is out of service. Which one is it? Engine 91's out of service. It's been taken out of service because there's a major repair due on it. What is that major repair? Transmission will not shift out of first gear. And this can be a work order that you print and or email to the individual or vendor that's going to work on your piece of equipment. Let's see, Jay asks, can documentation and or photos be attached to a repair request of a maintenance action done? Yes. And I will show you that once we do an actual maintenance request here, actions request. Okay, so now how do you set this whole baby up here? How do you add categories, subcategories, and park pieces of equipment into it? Now the apparatus, for those of you that are administrators, if you're an administrator, you'll be able to click this edit icon and go into this takes you directly to the administration module where you can edit that piece of apparatus. If you don't have access to the administration module, that icon will be dimmed and you will not be able to access this particular function of the grid because the apparatus are maintained within the administration module. You'll still be able to request maintenance though, or request an action on the vehicle. So for right now, one of the caveats I want to point out to you is that normally, and there will be, and I may come at the next what we call our sprints, the development cycles within our company, that there'll be a button that says settings here. For right now, and I even have this in the knowledge base article, and before I go, I'm going to send you a link to the knowledge base articles published so far for this module so you can kind of recap the things we talked about today. So for right now, I have to return to the older version, and this looks so Windows 95 compared to the new one. It's nice what they've done. And I have to click on Settings. Then my new user interface appears, and Here, I get to add equipment categories and equipment subcategories. Again, some of you will see PPE lists. That's part of safety analytics. That'll be part of another virtual Thursday. I think we even did one on that previously, but that again allows you to create ensembles for your PPE and assign those ensembles to individuals within the organization and track basically from the time you take delivery of it to the time you dispose of that piece of equipment. So here, these categories are hard-coded, but I can add subcategories to any of these hard-coded NFPA 1500 categories. These are categories I've created, and the way we do that is pretty straightforward. And what I'm going to do, instead of just click Add New Category, which is how you would do it, I'm going to show you this one that I created. So when you click Add New Category, you're going to get a blank window here. You're going to get this window with nothing filled out in it. So it's not blank, just the fields are. And you type in your category name. Remember, this is tier 1. This is the highest level. So you want, I wouldn't say relatively few of these, but you don't need to get detailed here. You don't need to go into every type of EMS equipment or every type of computer that your agency has. It's just the broad category, computers, high level. And then by checking these boxes, any one of these boxes that you check will be a required field whenever you add a piece of equipment to this category or a subcategory associated with this category. And so that'll allow you to do a better job of tracking certain things. And I really recommend that you track at least the estimated replacement cost and replacement date on pieces of equipment, because we have reports in the system that you can run that will give you kind of a preliminary high-level budget for the year on both equipment and apparatus replacements by year. And so you can say, hey, we're planning for 2020, and I want to get a rough idea, what we're expecting to replace and what it might cost. Now, this is all ballparking because it's forecasting, but at least it gets you in the vicinity of beginning the discussion for budget talks. The inspection frequency is set from daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. And one other mention here is that subcategory, if I check this box, it requires that any piece of equipment placed in the computers category must have a subcategory. If I don't check this box, I can park it actually in the category itself. But because we want the refinement of putting pieces of equipment in their right subcategories, so in computers I would have desktops, I would have iPads, I might have MDTs. If I wanted to categorize those separately, I could do that as well. Once we're happy with what we've set up for the category, we click Save. And now we have a new category that will appear on this list. And the red here, I noticed that it's a bug. So it's not part of NFPA 1500, but for some odd reason, it adds this red as we move down. So that'll be something we'll fix. But just know that this part will not drive the gauge. It is an independent category that you created that is not part of the safety analytics feature. Okay, next up, again, pretty straightforward. Oh, I guess before I leave here, you can search by typing in keywords. So anytime there's a string of characters that has CO in the category title, it'll appear here. No searchability here on required fields. I can search, and again, if I didn't, and I know I didn't mention, whenever you see the up-down arrows here, that's sort ascending or sort descending. So I'm sorting ascending, I'm sorting descending. So high to low or low to high. Inspection frequency. Everything in this grid is set to annually right now. And then my actions are just like they were before. Edit. And then it's important to know that if, like say here, let me go to the one I just created because that's the best way to explain it to you. Okay, this allows me to edit the category name. If it's subdued, it's an NFPA category, so it's not editable because it's hard-coded into the system. And then here, the subdued trash can, this indicates a parent-child relationship. So what this is telling me is that I have either a subcategory or, I should say, or a piece of equipment associated with that category. So you can't get rid of the parent until you kick the child out of the house. Then the parents can go. So basically, that's subdued. Now you'll notice that here, under this category called retired, it's not subdued, which tells me that there's nothing in it. There's no subcategory associated with it, nor is there a piece of equipment. So I can actually delete that category. And so that comes into play if you decide in your current system you want to start changing categories around and move things in and out of it and delete old names of categories. Just make sure you start moving pieces of equipment from category that it's in to another category or subcategory, and then that trash can will not be subdued any longer, and then you can get rid of that category to clean up your drop-down list for equipment categories. And I hope that makes sense. I know it's a kind of a mouthful, but that's how that works, and that's why people, why is that dimmed? Why can't I do anything with it? Well, there's a relationship there, or in the case of the edit icon, it's hard-coded into the system and not deletable. Subcategories works the same way, except when you add a subcategory, and I'm going to go into computers, your first column is category, middle column is the subcategory that you created, for inspection frequency, and then this is your ability to edit it. Notice there's no checkboxes here because that's driven at the category level. I can add a subcategory name. In this case, I call it iPads. It's in the computer category, and its inspection frequency is annual. That's the default for that category, but I can change it if I wanted to. Click Save, and now I have a subcategory within a category. Questions on that? All right, looking good, looking good. All right, so let's do this. Let's go back over to and we're going to stay into the new version. And I'm going to go to equipment. And let's add a new piece of equipment to our inventory. Now, I will tell you this, that those of you that are administrators, you may have discovered this. So I'm going to take a peek there real quick to show you something. Oops. If you are new to emergency reporting, or you've taken delivery of a batch of equipment, like multiple pieces of equipment, you can enter them one at a time, and I'm going to show you how to do it individually. But I'm going to click here under administration, and you'll notice that here under imports, you now have the ability to import equipment into the system. Instead of having a trainer, support, or sales rep do it for you, you now can do this. Now, what I always say is if you want me to look at your import CSV file, send it to me. I'll look it over, troubleshoot it, and make sure it's nice and clean. And then all you do is download the template, keep the row header on the template. So let me just do that so you can see it. And some of you may have already done it, but those of you that are newer to the system, I want you to see this. We'll let Excel load. You can create your spreadsheet. Based on the template. So we give you an example. First, don't change the header row. Delete these two here. Let me make it bigger. Okay, so row, don't change the top row. Then you can go in and add these are examples we give you. Put in as much information as you can. Don't forget your category and subcategory. Then save it as a CSV file. Add it here. It'll prompt you to select a file. Click Proceed to Data Mapping. It'll take the header row and make sure everything's lined up properly. And then it'll allow you to import that equipment in one batch instead of one at a time. Now, yes, you have to fill out a spreadsheet, but that's usually a little faster than going data point by data point within the system. And that's under the administration module. Okay, let's go back over to maintenance. Pause for just a second on questions. Okay, Roger's asking, and Mark, thanks for keeping up so well with the questions. How do I assign equipment ownership to a stockroom? Okay, so if you assign it to a stockroom, my recommendation is this. And like Mark said, you can leave it unassigned. And perfect. My answer is that exactly. Or create a station called warehouse or storeroom and assign it there. Great question. Thanks, Roger, and Mark. Thanks for answering that. Okay, so here we are. Let's say we just took delivery of a new thermal imaging camera. So we don't need to batch import that. So new thermal imaging camera. I hope I have a category that's going to be good for that. Let's see here. World-class equipment. Let's do that one. Subcategory, most equipment. All right, but what we would do is we would probably have it under, I might park it under a category called technology. And you might argue it's rescue equipment, but again, we won't split hairs. Subcategory, category technology, subcategory thermal imagers. And because of this particular category, world-class equipment, just these asterisk fields are required. So I can put in TIC 001. It's the first one we took from our department. I can put in the type, and this is all data entry, so you don't need me to spend our time doing all of that. But I do want to mention a couple things that I would recommend. Put the vendor that you obtained it from. Let's say we got it to Costco selling ticks now. Really think about using the actual cost, replacement cost, and replacement and retirement date. I have some customers that fill every field in, and I have some that just leave these blank. The reason I want to mention that you put this in here, and I'll show you here in a minute, and I remember the first grant I wrote was for a thermal camera that cost about $11,000. Now I think they're down to just a few thousand, if not less. Save with inflation when we go to replace it. And then we're going to replace it, again, hopefully get a long life out of it, 2025, February 1st. Ownership, this is where you assign it to an apparatus, person, or station. Okay. Now, to me, the way I use this is if it's assigned to a person, it's part of their gear, it's personnel. If it's on the bay floor, hopefully not, but if it's on a rack in the station or in a warehouse in the station, a storage room, I assign it to a station. Okay, so that kind of goes along with what Roger's question was earlier. And then if it's on an apparatus, which ticks usually are, I'm going to put this on engine 91. Reason, new delivery, change. So now it's on the right apparatus. I can even bring in a file if I want to bring in instruction files. If I want to bring in images, I can do that. I'm going to put it in service today. And I'm going to click save. And because I clicked it twice fast, I probably put a double entry in there. So let's see once it loads if I broke it or not. Give it a second to finish spinning. I'm in Safari on a Mac, so sometimes it hangs. So let me refresh. And let's go down to world-class equipment. Most equipment, subcategory, take 01. And because I clicked twice fast, it loaded, it doubled up on it. So that's okay. I'll just archive one of them. And now I should have just one piece of equipment, the actual piece. And so we're good to go. Just like I showed you earlier, we can edit it. We can see its history if there is any. And of course, add an action. So that's how you add a single piece of equipment to the equipment grid. So the report I wanted to show you on this is here. And quick, you guys probably know this, but if you type in on a Mac, it's Control F, and on a Windows machine, it's Control F for your friend or for find. And if you want to quickly find a keyword on a report, just type that keyword in, and I can go apparatus replacement year. We're not worrying about apparatus at the moment, but I do want to see equipment replacement date for category and subcategory for date range. So if I want to see report 1501 for, say, 2025 date range, and the date range prompts you have to do it here. Whoops. There we go. So thankfully, wow, this is even better than I thought. Um, this is telling me that there are 3 SCBA frames that are due for replacement on April 4th, 2025, their ID, where it's assigned to, the type, and the cost, along with my world-class tick at $2,000. And so my ballpark budget, the start jumping point for planning for that year's budget for some equipment is $2,825. So if you did that for almost all of your equipment, you've got a fairly good idea of 1, when it's due for replacement, and 2, roughly what it's going to cost. I know things change all the time, but at least it gets you in the neighborhood. So I did want to show you that report. Let me see if we take a pause for any questions. Okay. What we need to do in the time that we have left is, in order to stay with today's objectives, what I want to do is show you, I did show you the maintenance history, so we got that one done. I'm going to show you how to request maintenance. And so Scott's asking about how to edit an apparatus. We're going to do that too. But let's go in and let's say we need to fix something on our apparatus. We noticed during truck check today that engine 91, so I'm not going to open up my grid, I'm just going to type in engine 91. Of course, it's out of service. Engine 92. We did a truck check today, and so I'm going to filter my grid so I don't have to scroll through that whole thing. And I'm going to go over here to the gear icon, and I'm going to add a maintenance request. Now, if I have read-only privileges, all I'll be able to do is request maintenance. These will be dimmed, these buttons. But because I have an engineer, company officer, chief officer, I have full privileges here. So I can request it, and we're going to call this a minor repair. And this is going to be left rear strobe, if I spell it right, out. I can put in the apparatus hours that it was discovered, the miles, whether it's in or taken in or out of service because of the, and again, if I don't have full privileges, I can't do this. If I'm requesting maintenance as a firefighter, this button will not, these will not appear. So I can keep it in service if I have full privileges. It's not going to take it out of service. And I can put a description in here. I can take a picture and load it. I've had some people load videos because it's easier to just show it than to describe it. And as long as you have Windows Media Player, QuickTime that can play it back, you can load videos here. So I can stop here and request and close it, or I can actually go to the next page. So these are panels, and so now I'm in another panel, the assign and schedule. So I'm going to schedule it to be fixed on Monday. I can either have someone that I know is the go-to guy to fix that, or let's say I fix it because I'm an engineer and it's like we've got that piece of equipment in our cabinet in the station, I can fix it. So I can assign and schedule it, and better still, let's do it. I fixed it today. Okay, the hours and miles are the same. I can actually even skip this step and go straight to complete if I want. Okay, so I can enter those again, and then I fixed it on the spot because it's not just enough to fix it. We got to document these things. So when I completed it, I go in and it passed. Again, these are optional fields. The hours are the same, miles are the same. I fixed it. I can put in the labor if I want to. So say it took me half an hour and that bulb was an expensive one. It was like, say, 30 bucks. And that will tally when you run a maintenance report on how much time and money was spent on any particular apparatus. Okay, and this will add up labor, say there was labor, and then of course the requisite shop supplies. Oops, and it'll let you know if you type wrong. Okay. Any notes? You know, installed, tested, works. And then I complete and close it. And so you'll notice that because I completed it, it is not part of the pending maintenance, but it is part of the maintenance history. So if I were to Let's see if it'll let me edit it. Once it's been completed, I think I'm done. I can't make it incomplete. So if it were a pending item, we can do that really fast. So I'm firefighter. I noticed that moderate repair, nail in right rear dually. Put in that information if I want. Still in service. Request and close. I'm done. As a firefighter or engineer that doesn't have full privileges, you'll now see that it's a pending maintenance item that is all red letters because it has not been assigned nor has it been scheduled. And then up the chain of command, they can go in and assign it as needed and even schedule it. So as we're rolling along with a couple more questions, and Scott, I promise to get to your question on editing an apparatus. Can you assign a piece of equipment to a station and an apparatus? Absolutely. You can when you go into an apparatus, and so this is kind of a good segue. So Scott, here's how you would edit it from the grid. Okay, so if you wanted to edit an apparatus and you have full privileges to the administration module, like when I say full, you just have either have none or full privileges to the admin module. If you have privileges to it, this icon here will allow you to edit the apparatus. So you click that, it takes you into you're actually now in the administration module. And this is where you can edit that piece of that. In this case, it's an apparatus. You can reassign it to another station here. Okay, now if I change its station assignment, it's no problem. It's not going to affect its call sign up here. But I can go in and manually change that. Say this becomes engine 93. I can change that to 93. Don't change this number. That's its tracking number, and you can run a report. So no matter what you call this on the radio, it's always shop number or fleet number or asset number 4516. I can run a report for 4516 no matter what this is called. And then I can reassign it to another station. So that's correct. The fleet number needs to stay the same. But the apparatus ID could change with change of assignment or station. Yeah, you got it, Scott. So try it again. You should be able to do that. And if not, just type in what you're running into. Oh, yeah. So Steve noticed that whenever you hit complete and close, it shows it on our daily log. So Steve, you're ahead of the game what I was going to show you next, because I noticed that when I went back to the welcome page, but we'll do it. Okay, so change the apparatus ID. Okay, let me go into another apparatus because okay, so I'm going to change truck 91. So I'm going to change this to truck 92, and it's going to go to station 92, not changing the fleet number. I'm going to click save, and it's going to, oh, because of NEMSIS 3, and this is a NEMSIS 3 account, so don't worry about this. I have to fill these required fields in or it kicks me out. Let's see. Ground, other not listed. And now I should be able to save it. And now it's truck 92 at station 92. Still shop number 5512. And so Scott, on yours, if it says that the ID is already in service, one of two things might be taking place. And we can talk offline on this. I have a feeling if that apparatus ID, so he's saying that the apparatus ID, which is the call sign here, is already in service. So if you look on this, whatever you're changing it to, if it already appears on this list, you will need to rename the old one to like XE92 if it's engine 92, or to change that to bury it at the bottom of the list. Coming soon will be the ability to archive apparatus. But right now, the way the workaround is to rename that other vehicle that used to be called, say, engine truck 91. Say I wanted to, yeah, and it's going out of service, put an X in front of it and it becomes a different equipment, a different piece of apparatus in the system. And so then you can name another piece truck 92. If that doesn't work, then something's hanging on into the archive files that neither of us can see, but we may need to check something in support with that. So give that a shot, Scott, and see. But we can talk after class. Okay. So let's go back. Stay on track here. We're almost done. So I covered how to archive equipment and then also to delete equipment. You notice here, oh, maybe it is working. Let me just see real quick. This is going to be new, so let me test it out. Okay, it's working now. This is new. Good. So what I just said is now live. So we can actually archive apparatus. And so what's nice here is that I can unarchive it um, if I needed to bring it back into the service. But this is a good way to park equipment that is no longer part of your fleet and still maintain all of its records. So that's brand new, and this has been something that's been requested. So what I was thinking about it was that its functionality was going to be able to um, appear on the administration page, but in fact it takes place here. And again, you have to have administrative privileges to do that. I'm telling you, the system is changing so fast. I am learning. All of us, we're learning stuff every day about it. All right. And then of course we talked about hard deleting equipment. Let's take a look at a couple reports to wind down today, and let's see how we're doing on questions. Okay, will the date of the change show? So Nancy's asking, will the date of the change show so I know when it was moved? Yes, there is. Like Mark is saying, there's a history of a list of assignments generated. So if it will show you under that particular, let's go to equipment. So let's talk equipment. And let's say this cylinder assembly is assigned to engine 91. And I'm going to reassign it to engine 92. Click change. And this little button here will show you its ownership history. In theory. Let's see what's going down here. Oh, I guess it would be nice if I hit save. So now it's on engine 92. I can go in here. That'll show its maintenance. So that's going to be a different component. That's maintenance only. But when I go in to edit that piece of equipment, I can go down and now it should work. Please work. Ah, okay.
Hey Tom, it's Mark. And
Yeah,
for everybody, we noticed a bug in the ownership list. It's showing, in this case, 3 items. The records are there. They're not just displaying on this. And that's been kicked up to the product owner for a resolution, hopefully very soon.
excellent. Thank you, Mark. So that will work, and you will be able to see all of its ownership history. And so that's especially pertinent for PPE. You can track it from basically the time you take it out of the package to the time you dispose of that piece of equipment. Just looking at questions here. All right, cool. All right, so let's take a look at a couple reports that you can run that I think are some high points here with the new maintenance module. This gives you a high level. This is a brand new report. Apparatus replacement year by NFIRS apparatus type. So if I want to see what's going to be replaced between 2017 and 2030, we'll do a wide swath here to hopefully capture some. It'll break it down by year, by NFIRS apparatus type, the list of apparatus, and the total of expected replacement cost. Yep, Sal, this is recorded and will be available. We will post it to our webinars on demand section of the knowledge base article, usually about a week after this, after we're done. So one thing I want to mention to you guys that I've always found helpful is when you're in the actual module, and not every module has this, but like occupancy, training, reports, hydrant, the big ones have this. And so I like to look at my reports for the particular module by clicking on the reports button within the module, because it ties in the number along with the name of the report. And then of course I can do a quick search too by using the control F for find. Let me show you a couple others. This is a good one. Assigned equipment for personnel for category and subcategory. So if I want to see every piece of equipment assigned to John Adams, so a good check-in and check-out list, I can see all of his equipment here and its value. Really cool reports on that. So that's a number 1155. Equipment maintenance history. So this is for equipment, and we also have for apparatus as well. So if I want to just look at a particular, I can look at it for a single piece of equipment for a category. And this equipment history also includes, let's go down to, so the backslash here indicates category, splits, and then subcategory. I want to see everything done to my SCBA cylinders in 2017. And this will give, there's a lot of practice has been done in here, so it doesn't have the complete documentation, but these are all practice maintenance requests. And then of course at the end of the page, they'll give me, without the numbers here, I won't tell you if it gives a total or not, because I'm not sure if it will. Okay, so on that past report, is it actual cost or expected replacement cost on that report? So interestingly enough, on the equipment, it should be the correct terminology based on the field that you enter. So what Sal's asking is this. When you add a new piece of equipment, so because this is new, it gives you the ability to do this. We have its actual cost and its replacement cost. So for equipment, the actual cost, if it's showing in the column actual cost, that number should appear. And then if it's a replacement cost, it should show as a replacement cost. Now for apparatus, it's actually will show as replacement cost on some reports, but there's only one data point in an apparatus currently to put in a dollar value. And that's going to change when I've spoken to the product owner. So what I'm saying is this. So here under this piece of apparatus, I only have to put in vehicle initial cost, but on the replacement report, this appears and it shows as replacement cost. So when I teach this, I always kind of teach to put in your expected replacement cost here. This is the difference between the apparatus and the equipment side of the house here. Soon the apparatus side will catch up to the equipment side, and there'll be separate fields for that, just like there is for equipment. Good catch. Great catch. Okay, so as we close today, I want to show you in the daily log how this appears when you complete maintenance. So all of those maintenance items that I've completed will appear here. And I double clicked on some of them, so that's why they're doubling up. But that's one of the new things that automatically populate into the daily log along with incidents, training events, and inspections. Now completed maintenance items will also appear in the daily log. So let me see, let me check Steve's question here. Regarding the daily log question, I meant that each time you hit complete and close, it shows up on the daily log. So it will be there multiple times. I still want it on the log, just not multiple times. So I'd like to delete just one at a time, not take it out of the log completely. Got it. Okay, so one thing we know, and we've talked about this one, is the administrator should be able to delete these. Currently, there's a bug. So if I'm an administrator, I should have a little trash can icon here to be able to delete duplicate entries. That's being worked on. So that's a known issue. I've talked with the product owner on this, and he's fixing it. So his team's going to be fixing that. So you will be able to delete duplicate entries in the event that they occur. It's just not yet. Sometimes parts of the system uh, don't keep up with other parts. But yeah, that's coming. It's definitely coming. Yep, and then Jim's asking, did he had to go on a call, and that happens. We understand. Did you happen to show how to fill items like SC mass fill or bulk complete items like SCBs? We did show that. Do you know how to do that, Jim, or do you need us to show you? And as we wrap up here, we can stay past the top of the hour and show you this. All right, go ahead and type in your response to that, and I'll talk to Jim and Jamie. Will talk to you about the those questions. But let me do this because I know if I don't, I'm going to forget. I'm going to you guys can go here, but I'll send you the quick link. Under support, the first 5 articles, and it does cover a lot of what we talked about today, appear here as knowledge base articles. These are our newest knowledge base articles. I am going to send it to all of you. As a link that you can bookmark and quickly access. And again, you can access it through the support button here within the system as well. All right, well, we're going to stick around. We're at the top of the hour, just past it. We're going to stick around and answer a few more questions. Jim, I'll be more than happy if you'd like me to, if you want to type in a quick message to show you how to bulk complete items and actually the bulk functions, the bulk operations in the maintenance module. And then Jamie, the safety analytics package is required to have that assigned PPE tab. All right. Everybody, I am very happy for the tremendous attendance and participation today. On behalf of the entire emergency reporting team, a lot of this, I know I'm out in front teaching this, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in supporting these events and as far as making this a good system for all of you. So just want to thank my entire team for today and for you taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. Like I mentioned, this will be posted within the next week or so on our webinars on demand for you to view at your leisure and to share with other members of your team. So I'm sticking around for questions. I'll probably give it another 5 or 10 minutes. I want to make sure we've covered everything. Mark Wolf, thanks for answering all the questions on the fly as we were going through this and not having the participants wait for me to ramble on about it. So I appreciate you being there and wish everybody a safe day, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks. Just looking, making sure we got any questions. Oh, you're welcome, guys. My pleasure.
I see Roger. Yes, Roger, truck checks be added in the future. That is what they're working on currently, and within the next month, 1 to 2 months probably.
Okay, so I'm going to show Jim. Jim, thanks for sticking around. I'm going to show you how to do bulk operations in the maintenance module. We'll do that for equipment. So let me show you that here real quickly. Just want to make sure we're not having any lingering questions. Looks good. Okay, all right. So what you'll want to do is, let's say, and the best example I can give is hose, because that's something you do kind of in mass. So I'm going to actually scroll down to my 1.75 inch. Well, there's nothing in there. I'm going to go into, we'll just do 2.5 again. All right. By this box in the far upper left checks everything. So you basically would edit, add a maintenance record, or archive your entire equipment inventory. We don't want to do that. But we do want to do just the 2.5 inch hose. So I can edit them in mass, I can add a maintenance record, or I can archive them all. So I'm going to go ahead and add a maintenance record. And in this case, we're going to do routine cleaning. All right. And then I can go in and complete it. So say we did it today. I did it. Everything's still in service. If it were a test, I can select pass or fail, assign any amount labor hours associated with it, along with the cost, parts, labor, and other. In this case, we just cleaned it. I click complete and close, and every piece of equipment that I selected, and in this case it's the 2.5-inch hose, now has, and I can confirm that, now has both its annual test, which we did earlier while you were on the call, and then we just cleaned it. Does that answer your question on doing bulk operations? So how do we quickly review or see pending work orders in this new system? Okay, so the quickest way to do it is by going to maintenance and selecting a maintenance type. You can even filter down by equipment ID. So if I want to just see, let's do this. I want to see and this is where this is where the product owner has talked about being able to add additional columns here. But the quickest way that I know of is to select the maintenance type you're looking at. And so anything that has a moderate repair will automatically filter this grid and display only things that have a moderate repair pending. Because any completed maintenance item or actions taken is not going to show in this grid. It's going to be part of the piece of equipment or apparatus history. And so now everything that's due for a routine inspection appears in my grid. And then as I see this, I can refine it further. One of the things, and I want you to chime in here, Brian, is if you would think that the ability to just show certain categories without having to collapse and expand them would be beneficial. In other words, a column that would allow you to basically type in part of the name of the category and or the subcategory. Would you find that beneficial? Yes. So as I'm moving, I'll wait for your response there, but moving down into the questions, is there a way to bulk upload inventory via CSV file? Yes. Okay, and be careful the term inventory because in our system, inventory is like consumables. If you mean equipment, yes. And I don't know if you missed that, Sal, but back here in the administration module, if you go into the left column here, you can import equipment. Now we can also import apparatus for the larger departments with a big fleet, but that has to be done by support or by a trainer. But this is how you would do it. You click equipment import, download the template to fill out, make sure it matches your data. You input your data, and then you basically click add file and then upload it to your maintenance module. So how do I input each individual item? Let me see if I understand Jim's question properly. So how do I input each individual item? Is there a fast way through Excel that I can mass fill all of my equipment so I don't have to fill out each item as the number details? Yeah, that's through the bulk import that I just showed. Is that what you're looking for, Jim? Okay, and Brian, thanks for your response on that. I'll be sure to share that with the product owner because I would find that valuable too, and I think that's on his radar. So this is kind of like the version 1 of the new maintenance module. There's going to be more good things to come. Like I've seen some kind of mock-ups of what they're going to do, and it's going to be great. So, all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close the session, guys. Thanks for sticking around. Awesome participation and questions today, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks. This was a lot of fun.